passionate about Cleveland sports.
He's going in, touchdown!
Browns, Indians, Cavs, the Big Ten, and more.
Cleveland is a city of champions once again!
Andy and Jarid, Cleveland and beyond.
Swing it and drive! To deep right!
Here are your hosts, Andy Billman and Jarid Watson.
Hello and welcome, Andy and Jarid, Cleveland and beyond. I'm Jarid Watson along with Andy Billman, and today's show is going to cover Friday's Twitter swirl around possible leak for the Browns' schedule. Did you see this? I shared it on Facebook and on Twitter. The Indians are off to a good start at 8-5, but I know there's plenty of worries still out there for fans. Jason Kipnis and Carlos Gonzalez are going to be joining the club in coming days, which is a good thing, especially for that offense. And is it time to worry about Jose Ramirez having a slow start? I know I've been worried since the end of last season. It seems to have carried on far too long into this season, in my opinion, as well. Andy, I'm sure, is going to have his thoughts on this to go along with this. And the Cavs' long season of box score watching is over. Thank God, as they send off Channing Frye, which his wife left a really nice message for him. And I'm glad to have been able to watch that was shared on Twitter. They're going to start a search for a new coach as they've let head coach Larry Drew go. And right now, though, let's start off with the boys of summer. It's tribe time.
Cleveland Indians.
Well, if you want the positives, Jared, they're 8-5. I think it could have been much worse. They had a good home swing. They swept out the Blue Jays and did a nice job winning 2 out of 3 in Detroit. And we're taping this on Saturday, so we saw the shellacking of Carlos Carrasco, which we'll get to here in a second. Yeah. It's the new favorite player of Jarid Watson. But, going to the positives, I do want to start there. Clearly, the Indians starting pitching, it's been the captain obvious, but it needs to be stated. Kluber, Bauer, and Bieber have all been dominant in one game or another. They've all had their moments. They've all looked really good. They've had moments, too, where they get hit a little bit. But, look, those three are really solid. Hard to get off that. The other 3 positives I want to hit is Brad Hand. Jared, we have a closer.
Yeah, it's nice.
As an Indians fan, Brad Hand is a really good closer. I think he's actually better than Cody Allen was in his best years in 15 and 16.
I just need a guy who's not going to stress me out in the 9th inning, putting 1, 2, 3 men on. That's what I need before they decide to get their 3 outs or luck into a double play. That's what I need.
Well, Hand definitely has the closer mentality of, hey, I'll walk a few, hit a guy, whatever. But even when he does, Jared, I have full confidence he'll get out of it. He is really good. I like Brad Hand a lot. The story that's kind of starting to get picked up more, but needs to be brought up more, is the return of Carlos Santana.
Yeah.
He has been outstanding.
Amazing.
He is actually now being pitched around. He was pitched around in Game 1 in the Royal Series. He was pitched around a couple times in Detroit. I was talking to another reporter who follows the team on Friday, and he was mentioning to me, Jared, that Santana was really upset and did not like being away from Cleveland, and he was ecstatic to be back. I think that plays a part into what's going on here on the field.
Probably.
He really looks good.
Well, the bummer about being pitched around in this lineup right now is that it's not a problem to pitch around Carlos Santana. You're not worried about anyone else in that lineup. So it's a bummer for Carlos and his numbers, and a bummer for the Indians when they're trying to score runs. I mean, that's just the way it is right now. I mean, I know you're trying to look at the positive. I can't help it, man. They've been driving me nuts with some of these losses. And it's just,
well, they've only had 5.
Frustrating.
I know, but they've only had 5. I mean, and Naquin's back to where he was last year. Now, to where Jared alluded to, the things of concern. And again, I'm a believer in this. I heard this from people growing up, and I'm a starch believer. You really can't look at baseball until after Memorial Day. And I do think that's a good rule to have. So when we say these things, keep that rule in mind, as it's true. If these things continue and it's Memorial Day, now it's not a worry, it's a problem. But right now, these are just concerns. So I do want to distinguish the two.
Right.
The one that is what Jared's alluding to that I think is actually going to be the theme all year is run scoring and home runs. The Indians are way down in both. They're both in the bottom third in the league in both categories, and they're really hovering in the mid-20s. So there's 30 teams in baseball, so they're not in the high 20s. They're in the mid-20s, which means they are almost in the bottom 3 or 4 teams in the league. They're not there yet, but they're hovering. Their hitting is way down. The one or two or three guys, I don't want to pick on any of them and say they're the scapegoats, but I'll kind of group them. I'll lead off with Jake Bauers.
Yeah.
Jake had a big double in an opening game in the home opener. Outside of that, Jake Bauers has really struggled.
And they've counted on him. According to Mandy, they were really hoping for big things out of him. And again, to caveat, it is early in the season.
It's a Memorial Day.
But we're getting a taste of what these guys really are, though. At this point, I think after 13 games.
Well, again, it's not a problem. I'm worried. I'm worried about Jake Bauers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Jake Bauers outside that double in the home opener. Yesterday in the Royals game, couldn't get men over. Couldn't even get big hits. And to what Jared, you alluded to, and Mandy's right, they're not batting Jake Bauers 8th. They're batting him 3rd. So he is swinging a big stick in this lineup right now, and he is simply not getting on base. I think Martin, outside the Detroit series, he did play all right last night. Really, Jared Leonis hasn't done much, to be honest with you. So they need more out of those two guys. The one position I am starting to say it is what it is catcher. I don't think Roberto Perez or Pilecki's. I just think that is what it is. Unless they trade for a player, I think this is it.
No,
I think this is it.
You're not going to get, Andy, you're looking at a possible below 200 average at the catching position for the entire season.
Jared, I think you're hovering around 100.
That's unacceptable.
I really, really do.
That's so unacceptable, and we knew it before the season started.
Yes.
We knew how much they were going to need a Yan Gomes. Andy, I don't know. Looking at the money, and if you want to, I just don't understand why they let Yan go. What money was involved even with keeping Yan Gomes here? Was it really significant enough to allow him to leave? I just don't get it.
I thought that was an overstep and he's not expensive. He's not an expensive starting catcher. So they must have really liked Daniel Johnson. The Rodriguez pitcher is pitching today. He's the pitcher taking the start for Clevenger being hurt. So we'll see what we get out of Rodriguez. You and I both screamed it, so we're not saying anything that's new information to you and I.
Right.
This is the only one where I am actually saying I'm ready to say this is a problem. I don't see this changing. I don't. I think Jared's right. I think it's actually, can they get above 150? I think 200 would be great. I would sign right now for Roberto Perez or Pilecki to take 200.
That's not Major League. That's not Major League Baseball, Andy. This is unacceptable.
Agreed. Jared, if they offered you that, I would sign it right now, would you? If they offered me, hey, you can get Pilecki or Roberto Perez hitting 200, I would sign it right now. Sign it.
I would absolutely take that if you could make that. I was
bad.
hoping for that. A 210 average? That's enticing at this point, right?
I know. That's where we're at. I think, again, the defensive side, I see it being good. It's not great. So at least we got good defensive catching, but Jared, this hitting, I think it is what it is. They're going to have to make a trade. If they don't make a trade, this is it. I don't see it getting better. I just don't. The other things that are really played a part, which Mandy hit upon, which you and I have hit upon, are the injuries. Clevenger being the latest since the last time we spoke.
Yeah.
That one I think it's not gonna hit the team initially, but I think as the season goes on, you're gonna feel that injury. It is great news about Kipnis and Carlos Gonzalez. I mean, look, Stamets is such a nice kid, a nice story. Max Moroff is a nice story. These are backup and AAA players. They need to get out.
Can any of them catch, though? Can we slide any of them behind the plate?
Well, yeah. I mean, I like the idea of having Kipnis back there and then eventually Lindor and Miller as your utility infielder. That's good.
Can Santana slide back behind the plate?
Well, I know. Well, I'll tell you, at least those things can come into play. He hit in a couple games early, and to what you're saying is true. They're pitching around Santana. Hanley Ramirez has to hit a little bit more. He is not hitting in these spots yet. He had 2 opportunities against the Royals on Friday night. They're both outs. Hanley has to hit in those spots. He has to get hits on this team. And that's not good to say, but I don't know where else you go with this. Like they need a guy like Hanley Ramirez to step in and hit, and he's not hitting either. And then we go back to what you alluded to in the open. is the whole J-Ram discussion, which I think is going to build steam now. So I think we're enough games in where, again, it's not Memorial Day. It's not a problem, but it's now a worry. I'm worried about Jose Ramirez, and you alluded to it. I wasn't on as full boat as you and others, but now I'm on your boat. I'm keeping my eye on this.
There's
this
just something. I don't know. You can see it. There's an uncomfortableness. There's something going on. I don't know. I don't know what the fix is going to be, Andy, and I don't know if there is going to be a fix. The bummer of it is that there's no one else. There's no one around to pick up when guys who are expected to hit are in a situation like this. There's nowhere else for it to be cleaned up. There's no one else to step in and go, it's okay, we'll get the 2-out hit. We'll be the ones to hit there's nowhere. We're looking directly at the people that are expected to do it, and if they're not doing it, that's it. There's no other options. And this goes right back to looking at how they put this lineup together for this season. At any point, Andy, did any part of this lineup look like anything better than a frickin' gamble? Every single position. It's an entire, all of it is, well, if this happens and works out well, great. If we've got this concern, but if this works out, it'll be, but all of those hoping that things would work out, they were all a gamble. Every last bit of it. Well, Perez went and worked out hitting in the DR over the break. Yeah. And fingers crossed that it carries over into this season. Right. Hanley Ramirez, he's still got a lot of pop in that bat. He's been off for about 4 years, but we think we can revitalize his career. Well, fingers crossed, it'll happen. Every single thing it's a gamble, and none of them, just like gambling, none of them have paid off. None of them. Okay. All right. I'm not as harsh as you. I'm going to sprinkle some positive. I know. I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you out. I'm going to give some positive here. I do think Kipnis Gonzalez will help. Because I'm telling you right now, Stamets is batting about as bad as Roberto Perez. So he's going to give some life. Kipnis, even if he bats 100, is better. Are you sure? This is the thing. We're talking about, we're excited about Kipnis coming back when last year we were wondering if Kipnis was even going to, if we were going to get rid of him after the end of last year. I know where we're hoping. There's a lot of hope on this team. So you just hope he puts something together. But you know what? Wish in one hand. I know. Santana, though, is done nicely, and he's playing well. Yes. And you just hope you get the same kind of reaction from Kipnis. Now, Frankie Lindor will help this team out tremendously, and I think it's actually going to help out Mr. Ramirez more than anybody. Yeah. I think Ramirez and Lindor are joined on the hip, and I think that's a big part. That was the thing I was going to bring up today. I think J-Ram was very good friends with Encarnacion. If you saw those videos last year, they were always together in the dugout. And I think the other half of this is Lindor. Now, he has other friends on the team. He talks to the team. But if you watch the last 2 years, Jose and Encarnacion hung out the entire game. Yeah. They were usually sitting at the bench, hanging out, and Lindor would always be there too. So it'd be really that possum of three people. Posses. I didn't mean to say possum. Sorry, posse. Rally and now, possum. Rally possum, right. So I think that plays a part of it here. But to what you're alluding to, and I let it off, and this is my negative jump off the cliff. This outfield is not good. And I'm telling you, I'm hard on this guy more than others. Leonis Martin, I'm glad he's healthy, but he's got to start playing better. He has got to start swinging the stick better. Yeah. And Jake Bauers, you're going down the lane of Josh, for people who remember Indians fans, Josh Barfield. You are going down that lane where we get this hyped-in person who played in 1 year in San Diego, came in and played second base, and I'm telling you, if you watch Josh Barfield and you watch Jake Bauers, they are paralleling right now. They are doing the exact same things where you just kept saying early, boy, Josh Barfield's getting a lot of big at-bats early, and I'm not seeing him hit much. Boy, here we go again. Josh Barfield, another big at-bat. He's not hitting much. Jake Bauers, what's startling, and to what Jared's point, he's not batting seventh or eighth. He's batting third. Mm-hmm. So clearly the Indians have big plans for Mr. Bauers. So that has to come through. I think the Indians are going to be wheeling and dealing throughout the year. I will say the one thing I love about this club early, and it's going to be the staple of this club,
if you give a lead to this staff and it's 2 or more runs, I think the Indians are going to be tough to beat.
Yep.
I think they're going to suffocate you, and they are going to.
I think that the worst thing that can happen to them is what happened to them the other night with Carlos Carrasco. I think that a team jumping off if teams jump off early on this club,
good night.
They're not a come from behind team. They're not a team to rally and score runs. It's just not there.
They don't. They're leaking oil in so many places. But when you have a strong starting staff, which Indians do, and you have a bona fide closer, that Jared, it's going to get you, 80 wins. So it's how do you figure out that other 10 to 15? I think the Indians are. That's why my overall message is for all things, and Jared's right, and I'm hitting some hard ones too. Catcher is a huge problem on this team.
Huge.
You're short an outfielder and a half right now. Leonis Martin's doing, I'd say, below average. So I won't say he's been awful. I think Jake Bauer's been awful. I think right now Leonis Martin needs to play better, but he's not being terrible. And then I do like Naquin. Naquin's doing the same thing he did last year before he got hurt. I don't think you can ask any more Naquin. I think you got, by the way, if you get something like that from Naquin all year, you should be ecstatic because I think he's going to be such a big player in a spot. And he's proven he can get hits and he can rake when the moment's right. I think Naquin actually, that's the one thing that I was glad because boy, did it start off slow, but Jared, he's playing nicely. He had a home run again.
I said it before the season started. We've talked about this at the end of last season. I was really hoping for big things out of him because I had a feeling of all the gambles that his was the one that seemed like the best bet, that he seemed like the kid. There's something about his scrappiness. There's something about his play that gave me a feeling that he's going to figure it out. He's going to figure it out because he wants to so badly.
No, he's been pressured. Yeah. The one other positive I'll give, and I'm going to go back to Jose to end it. I think this Oscar Mercado, I've been hearing so many good things about him, Jared, from multiple people. I think he's going to be a star. And I will say that is something also that I know is coming. He's coming. And according to everything I'm hearing, it sounds like he is going to rip the ball. So if you get him, you get Bradley Zimmer, I think this outfield will settle down a little bit. Yeah. I think the Indians are going to land on 90 to 95 wins again and win the division.
Ooh.
You don't?
Yeah, and I shouldn't.
If you want to, I will take you a friendly wager right now because
8-5. Andy, no, I'm laughing because you're right. I mean, we're sitting here at 8-5 right now, and I'm acting like we're at the bottom of the division.
Well, that's my point. I'm trying to bring you sunshine. I know there's things coming. The only thing I don't have answers to is catcher. I can't answer you catcher. I think that is what it is. I think that is a huge problem all year.
Can I address this too? I got to tell you what, Andy, I don't think, and this is an overall Major League Baseball issue, and maybe, I don't know, maybe it's because it's the only thing we have to look forward to when we're watching the Indians. When we talk about this rotation, when we talk about Brad Hand, I don't think the Indians, I don't think as a fan, I'm not the type that is bored watching good pitching.
No, I'm with you.
That way.
No. By the way, the games are efficient.
There's a difference between good pitching and bad hitting. And that's where I think the problem lies in, with this game. The Indians pitching staff is amazing, and I will watch them just to see and just to count strikeouts, right? I mean, there's times where I've never been so excited. We've talked about how many times 4, 5, 6, 7 innings of no-hit baseball with this starting staff right now.
The game
more than half of the games.
The game on Thursday, was it Thursday when Bieber pitched? On Thursday when Bieber pitched, that was my favorite game. Because I knew immediately once they got up 2 or 3 runs, my game's over. We will get this to the 7th. Simber or someone will come in the 8th. Yeah. Well, and by the way, I want to give props to the Boilermaker. Nick Whitgren is good. I like him. I'm glad I thought about this.
The other Boilermaker.
No, yeah,
There's 2 of them now on the team.
Well, Pilecki. Look, Plecki is Plecki. Nice kid, but he's a backup. I live in the New York metropolitan area. I've seen Plecki play. It is what it is. But Whitgren can pitch. He is good. And I'll tell you, the other kid, too, has really improved is Tyler Olson. I've seen a big change in him this year. I like Olson, Simber, this Whitgren kid. The only guy I'm down on the bullpen's John Edwards. I don't understand John Edwards. He must be like making great sandwiches in the clubhouse because Jared in a big spot, he is nerve-wracking. I just don't think John Edwards. I know everybody loved him coming out of camp, and he seems like a good dude, but Jared, even last night, he pitched in a mop-up role in the Royals game, and he had trouble getting outs. Again,
though, pitching is not going to be a problem with people who are watching this Indians team.
No.
Pitching is not. I mean, I will continue to watch Indians baseball because of pitching, and it's fun.
Yes.
But bad hitting is really, really, really a drag.
And I'll tell you the other thing the Indians have, which is a disease in the sport, and it's certainly a disease on this team. They strike out a lot.
Oh,
the Indians have so many swings and misses on this club. It's hard to count them at times. So as they go into the week, we're going to do another show midweek once the Brown schedule comes out. They finish up in Kansas City, then they go to Seattle. I know they go back home. I forget who they play coming back home. But this is a good little trip here for the Indians. Right now the Tribe are 2-2. They have 2 more in KC. Then they go to Seattle, and Seattle's red hot. They've started the year out of nowhere. By the way, no one saw that coming for the Mariners. So hopefully the Tribe can end up here. But Jared's vocalizing concerns are real, and I think they're real.
Mariners, Braves, Marlins, Astros.
Braves coming home.
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
Braves coming home. So,
yep.
You get the Braves coming home, but starting staff, Brad Hand, Santana, Naquin, cool. The other outfielders, You're not going to see much more Stamets and Moroff. Kipnis and Gonzalez will help a little bit. But catcher, Jose Ramirez, and I will say, as time goes on, if he doesn't start hitting, Hanley Ramirez too. Hanley's got to have to start hitting in some of these games. If not, we're going to have to find a new DH.
There are pitchers in the NL that hit better than Perez and Pilecki.
It's bad.
That's how bad it is,
it's
folks.
Bad.
That's not a lie.
I want to repeat.
Bowers doesn't come around. That's huge.
Gosh, Jake Bowers is it's batting third.
It's a big piece.
I'll end on this note before we get to the Browns thing. To what Jared's saying, and I want to hammer it though. I don't know how you fix catcher. I think all these other things are fixable. The only way you fix catcher is if you make a trade.
It didn't need fixed. It didn't need fixed.
I know. It didn't. But now it does.
I want to rip my hair out over this.
But now it does. Let's see how this kid Rodriguez... you know what will make Jared Watson feel better? A little Rodriguez pitching well tonight. Let's see Rodriguez pitch a good game here. Daniel Johnson's supposed to be a stud. He's the other guy in that deal. Hopefully those guys come off.
I need to put the Masters on in the background and relax while we're doing this show.
Yeah, and the strumming of the guitar. All right, let's get to the Browns real quickly. Ding 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 bong ding bong bong. I'll get to the Masters at the end.
Gonna pump in the bird sounds.
Yeah, but if you're cold and windy in Minnesota, watch the Masters and want to jump off a bridge. Oh my God, it's been pouring rain all week here, and when you look at those people running around Augusta in shorts, oh God, it makes you aggravated.
I gotta say, I love Jim Nance's voice.
No, the Masters is I'm gonna get onto my Masters thing at the end.
Cleveland Browns.
Here's the thing that came out. Jared posted it. A credit to McNeil Frog's Twitter account. By now, if you're in Cleveland, social lore, you know who he is. He somehow got this information. It looks like it's a schedule. To be fair to anyone, we don't know if this is it or not. I'll allude to a couple of things I know Jared wants to as well. Unless something shocking happens, I'm confident in saying this is just a guess. Browns are going to New York to start Monday Night Football.
It only makes sense. I think there's a lot of people that, we know that Odell saw the schedule, right? And we know his reaction was, something about, the first week of the season or surprise.
Right.
I can't remember exactly what he had said. And then there were people that argue and said, well, why would going to play the Jets be a big deal? He played for the Giants. And it's New York.
It's New York.
It's New York.
It's New York. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a big deal.
It's
It's a
New
big
York.
deal. I mean, look, that's a big game. And again, it's the opening Monday Night Football, which for everybody out there who remembers, first Monday Night Football game was Cleveland hosting the Jets. This time it'd be in New York. But there's a lot of juice and energy going in that game. I think that's a good kick to the season. I really do like that game. It's a winnable game, not going to be easy, feisty crowd. And Jared, I also like it because it gets that Beckham return to New York out of the way early. Let's get that game out. Let's play it. Let's move forward. And you can go on for the rest of the season. But looking at the schedule, if this is the schedule, the one thing that you kind of alluded to via me text, and I kind of thought the same thing, there are a lot more possible W's compared to other years, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
And
this schedule does not feel difficult.
Not as daunting. The other thing, too, that's really going to, again, even if this isn't the schedule, and we don't know, so that's why I don't want to do too much of a deep dive. We just don't know. It's not. It's hard to speculate.
I mean, we do know the teams they're going to be playing, and we could say this
Yes.
on this hypothetical schedule. We're looking at possibly playing the Rams at home in an afternoon game. A lot of 4 o'clocks according to this schedule.
Not a lot of ones. Yeah.
And I got to tell you, are you even nervous about playing the Rams this year, third week of the season?
They're really good.
Yeah,
They
but
won Super Bowl.
I feel like playing the Rams at home. I think that's a winnable game. I mean,
No. It's a winnable game, but that's not easy. They're going to have to play really well to beat the Rams.
Yeah, but they probably will. I mean, this is
No, they will.
This is
No,
what
no, I'm
hoping,
confident.
It's just
No, Jared, I know what you're
believe we're
getting
having
at.
this conversation again, and maybe that's what it is. I still feel on cloud 9 about where on paper. I always say this.
No, Jared.
hell.
Jared. Here's a good example. On this supposed schedule, they have the theory of the Browns playing in Arizona on Thanksgiving night. Okay, in past years, that would really upset me because I'm like, well, we'll never win that game. On the road, Thanksgiving, we'll take a nap. Now this year is the exact opposite. Oh, it's a young team; they're inexperienced. Thanksgiving, we'll clock them. So that's the big change I noticed. The other thing too I noticed is the Browns are going to be a focus on every week at times.
Mm-hmm.
There's a multiple situation where it's like, wow, we are going to be the headliner that week, or wow, if we're not the headliner, we're game 2 or 3 or 4. And again, the way they stack the schedule, supposedly, I do agree with it. They're putting their bigger games early, so that way later it doesn't matter because the Browns will be having a solid record and they can carry the schedule.
I think what's strange about this schedule to me is we would end the season in Baltimore and then at home against Cincinnati, which feels, again, when we're talking about the ease of the schedule, a lot easier than ending with Pittsburgh, or like we're used to doing in that sense. So I mean, even that is a surprise to me. We played Pittsburgh kind of in the middle of the season on both games,
which I like. I would rather get those. I'd rather get those games out of the way.
Yeah, very strange to not have those as highlight games though.
One of them is Monday Night Football game they had in that schedule. The home game was.
Yeah, I think it's just the placement of them within the schedule.
Yeah, I hear you.
That's surprising to me.
I hear you. I mean, again, I'll stop there because we don't know if this is a schedule or not.
I know I really have been assuming it is.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll see what happens.
We're eating our words on the next podcast.
That's my point. But alluding to the next podcast, once that schedule gets released, it always gets released the week before the draft. They do not announce it. It just appears on your TV guide, and then the next day they kind of release the games out. So we should know about the schedule. Once that happens, Jared and I will do a podcast immediately and review everything else. Look, if you want other Browns news, I'll be honest with you, I think it's very razor thin. We talked about the backup quarterback being signed, safeties coming in and out there being signed. But look, the next big thing's the draft, and that's why it's really quiet. The Browns aren't a focal point in the draft at all. For how much the hype has gone in the offseason, the Browns are very on a low totem pole, as they should be for the draft. There's no hype.
I think the only thing that is still a conversation within Cleveland and with the Browns and with fans is, are they going to be able to convince Duke Johnson? Are they going to be able to get his buy-in? Because he's not going anywhere. He's just not.
You know what? It's going to be up to Duke.
Yeah.
I don't think that's. I want to dive more in that as we get through the spring. Meaning, like, this is all voluntary stuff, Jared. If he starts missing mandatory mini camp or missing mandatory some training camp, that's where my ears will perk up. This is all voluntary stuff. I don't read into this. I've heard some people, and I'm listening to talk radio, analyze Instagram photos and stuff like that for Browns right now. It's like, but none of this stuff's mandatory. So I'm not analyzing any of this yet, but going to where you're going with Duke Johnson, he is the one question mark still. There's been, by the way, I don't think there's going to be any news on that until draft week, to what you're alluding to, maybe a trade. But Jared, right. My gut tells me I don't think he's moving. I think he's staying right here.
Yeah, no, there's no way. He's not going anywhere. I think the team is going to work their asses off to try to get him to want to be there. I don't know how this plays out, though, Andy. I really don't. I don't know. I don't know enough about Duke's mentality on where he is right now with all of this. I don't think any of us know. I think we'll find out, though, soon. I mean, we'll find out. But I definitely think that if we're going to pick any worry on this team, and you can't even call it a worry, but anything that could end up adding a little drama to what is otherwise a drama-free zone at this time. Yeah. Holy shit. I think I can't. Again, I laugh at all of this because it's just so different from how we usually talk about the Browns. But that's where that drama is going to come from. And I'm hoping that it doesn't, but it's funny. You got Odell Beckham Jr. coming on this team, but the drama is going to come somewhere else. That's wow.
And Kareem Hunt. And Kareem Hunt at some point, too. So, I mean, yeah, there's a lot to digest with that whole thing. That's why, again, I don't think Duke's going anywhere. We interviewed Hayden Grove, which we're finally going to get to now. He lived that whole week for us in that whole day, I shouldn't say week, that day of when he was with the Odell Beckham press conference leading into the home opener. So now Hayden Grove to take us through that day.
Joining us, Hayden Grove, Cleveland.com, at @H_Grove. I never give that out, by the way. Sorry about that, Hayden. That's his Twitter handle. Hayden, thanks for joining us. How you been, man?
I've been good. Thank you for having me, and I appreciate the plug, as always.
Listen, Andy and I obviously are jealous. We want from you a day in the life of Hayden Grove, specifically April 1st, 2019.
Yeah, April 1st, 2019, a day that I will soon not forget. April Fool's Day, but also there was no April Fool's jokes. It was a real day. It happened. So woke up probably around, because my job is mostly at nighttime, I'm not a very super early riser. I mean, God bless, I watched my dad wake up at, 5:45 every morning to go to work. And, I used to be an early riser, but, with the late nights at the job, I'm usually up pretty, probably 9 o'clock. So I got up around probably 8:30, went and worked out, and then went to Progressive Field around 10:30. They had clubhouse availability. Tito Francona spoke. I did some radio work for WTAM. And then around, it was probably around 1 o'clock maybe 12:45. Yeah, maybe it was 12:45. One of my coworkers came and picked me up from the park, so I didn't have to move my car. We drove down to the Browns facility where Freddie Kitchens was set to speak at 1:30, got there about 1:10. Had some time to settle in and talk to Freddie for a bit. And then 1:50 rolls around and we're getting ready for OBJ, and it's exciting. His mom walks in the room. They bring in the jersey, and a lot of reporters there. And so sure enough, in walks OBJ, and immediately I'm struck by, I thought he was going to be taller. I thought he was going to be a bigger guy. I don't know why I felt that way, but he kind of seemed small, but again, he just had this presence about him. He kind of was, you could tell he was kind of humble, but also excited for the opportunity. So he was up there, on the dais with Baker, and Baker's always, very confident, very kind of controls the room. Jarvis Landry just seemed like he was kind of in a wonderland, like he couldn't believe it was happening. And then Myles Garrett, I don't know why they brought Myles Garrett out, but they did. And you saw the press conference. It was, it kind of turned into just like this pretty surreal thing about, I knew how close I knew how close Jarvis and Odell were, but I guess I didn't understand like the brotherhood that they shared. I didn't know that they were just like, at each other's houses every day, throwing ball, catching balls in the facility till 1 o'clock, like in the morning, and breaking into the school to catch, passes and whatever, and work on their games. And, I think that the uniqueness of that bond is far more than I expected. And I think that really showed through. Then I think I kind of got a sense from Odell that, maybe he did have a hard time at first, kind of struggling with the trade, but at the same time, I did get the sense that he's really excited for this opportunity. I think that Jarvis every day is kind of telling him, hey man, like we got a chance to make this special. It's going to be special. And, he said he talked to LeBron about the city of Cleveland, and LeBron had great things to say, as I would hope LeBron would. I mean, he's left twice, but I think that was less to do with the city of Cleveland itself in his hometown, more so than, basketball opportunities, and then now has moved to LA for other opportunities. Mm-hmm. But it seemed like they were very, it kind of seemed surreal, and it wasn't, you're right, it wasn't the run of the mill press conference. And these guys kind of, I don't think they said too much. I don't think they sold anything. I don't think they had to sell anything, but they were just genuinely like excited for the opportunity. And I think you're going to see those three on the right side, especially blend well in the offense. And then, so that was probably over around 2:45, got to Progressive, or probably was at the facility doing stuff from like 2:45 to like 3:15ish. Then we got back to the park at around 3:35ish. And just when they were starting their introductions at Progressive Field. Very cold day, but a very nice day for baseball. Just opening day. It's always a special time. It's one of my favorite days of the year, just to see all the fans out there in Cleveland. Game started at 4:10. It was an eventful game. They pulled out a win, and then probably got home at like 11 or so, somewhere around there. So
just in time to reflect.
I was gonna say, just in time to get a quick sandwich, gulp down some beer, and go to bed. Let me ask you, Hayden, when you left the press conference, two things. A, when they walked in the room, was there any kind of look? I was telling Jared I was gonna do work, but I had it on the background. I was expecting Dorsey or Kitchens or Haslam to walk in with Beckham. When I left my head lifted up and I said, "Oh my gosh, it's actually Mayfield." Oh, wow, this is not what I was expecting. Was there that kind of like, were people kind of surprised? Did you know that before you go in? And then when you got to Progressive, was there a lot of scuttlebutt about what happened with Odell? I was surprised how long that press conference carried in the news cycle. It carried for about 2 days.
Yeah. So we actually were told when we were told probably before Freddie.
Okay.
So probably around 120, 125, they said, hey, we're going to bring out Odell. We're going to bring out Baker. We're going to bring out Jarvis and Myles. And I thought that was awesome. First of all, I'd rather talk to them than to talk to Jimmy Haslam about it or John Dorsey about it, because we'll talk to John Dorsey about it. We have talked to John Dorsey about it. And then, Freddie was Freddie, and he did his thing early, which is great. But I think that, it was kind of just having those guys. You just got to see it. You got to see the future in the faces of
exactly.
You got to see the future in the faces of three, potential Hall of Fame, Pro Bowl Cleveland Browns, and those are the guys that are going to be the face of this franchise, with Myles Garrett included. And it's just an exciting thing. It was an exciting thing to see. And again, I would have rather, I think Odell could have done it by himself, but I think that Jarvis made the press conference so much better, and Baker did too, because again, they really, provided some excitement, some background that you probably wouldn't have gotten elsewhere. And then when I got back to Progressive Field, I would say that there was a lot of scuttlebutt about it. Like, did you watch the press conference? What do you think? Blah, blah, blah. I thought it was pretty different, whatever. And, I don't think the Indians were upset. I don't think that was the issue, because I think there were travel things that they wanted to do, or that they had to do. And I think Odell left the same day. I know he reported and he just wanted to get a sense of like, the building and everything. But I think he left the same day. So to go back to training. So, so that the logistics of that probably forced them to do it that day. But I think it just made it for a fun day. I mean, I agree. I think the Indians had plenty of eyes on their game. They won, so that's a big deal. They had a sold out crowd. It was a nice day, so the Indians were not at all upset. But yes, they're, the press box was kind of buzzing with what do you think of the press conference, Odell? What do you think of the whole thing? So it was a really unique and exciting day. Yeah,
when I say scuttlebutt, I was meaning more like how the city was abuzz. I mean, Cleveland carried that day, and that's what I actually was kind of surprised. I didn't feel it as much, but I heard some people, and I know Jared saw it too, and heard
I think that whole thing started with one social media post on Twitter from one person that I'm not going to throw him under the bus. But if you're on Twitter, you probably have seen it. And that's what sparked all of that. It wasn't anything that was a carrying theme, I don't think.
No, I thought that was a great day. I thought it was a great day for Cleveland because we felt important. It felt like, Cleveland is a big city, and that felt like a New York day. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, it reminded me of kind of when the Indians were in the World Series and the Cavs were in the finals, or Cavs were starting their season, and it kind of, listen, I didn't know what was going to happen after LeBron left, because we didn't know what Baker was going to be. We didn't know, the Browns were 0-16. I didn't know if it was going to be a really rough spell in Cleveland sports. I've been lucky enough. My first year covering Cleveland sports was maybe like 2013 or 14, when Swisher came into town and when LeBron came back. So I haven't really had a downtime, not like, 2011 Cavs and the Browns were terrible. 2011 Indians were terrible. I haven't really been through that as a reporter. Now, I watched, my whole entire childhood was watching terrible Browns teams and terrible Cavs teams outside of LeBron and, Indians teams that usually didn't live up to what you thought they would be. And, so, I totally understood it. But now, I thought there was going to be a serious lull. I was like, okay, well, LeBron's gone. The national eyes are no longer upon Cleveland. The Indians have some great players, but I don't think Frankie Lindor is yet ready to draw national appeal. I don't know if Corey Kluber has the star power. I don't think, Trevor Bauer. I think Trevor Bauer is probably too outspoken. So
Trevor's trying.
Yeah. He's trying like hell.
He's definitely trying.
Yes. And then, then comes, Baker Mayfield. People ask me, oh man, Baker, what's he like? Have you seen him around? How is he, and that was going home to Florida and people asking me about Baker. Then I was like, all right, so maybe the Browns do have something here. And then all of a sudden you get Odell and your phone's blowing up, with people like, oh my God, can't believe this. Cleveland's back on the map already, blah, blah, blah. And here we go. It's, you've got your star and you've got your star team. And now Cleveland's going to be right back on the map because of what the Browns have been able to do with Baker, with OBJ, with Jarvis, Myles Garrett, and plenty of other guys they're going to bring in.
Hayden, I hate that. I'm not going to go negative here, but I have to mention this. I'm going to refer to this person as National Mouth. A certain National Mouth decided to create this different narrative on this entire situation recently and talk about all of the bad things that could possibly happen, and saying that Odell doesn't want to be there, and look at his body language on stage. And if this is somebody who's been, for some odd reason, unprovoked in his trashing of the city of Cleveland and of the Browns specifically and of Baker Mayfield. Where is this coming from? This is something that is completely contrived in my eyes. Did Odell at all, from any of your, from your perspective, does he seem like he is upset? I know that the words from Saquon Barkley on his initial trade are there, but I think that made sense. It's an upheaval of your life, no matter who you are, and you didn't expect it or see it coming because you just signed this big contract. So, do you see any evidence that this is going to fall flat on its face, or that it's this possible mess that this National Mouth seems to want to provoke this idea as being something that's valid?
I honestly don't know what national media would want more, to see the Browns win the Super Bowl and become what, everybody seemingly wants them to become, or if they want this thing to be a train wreck. I mean, I really just cannot see it being a train wreck. And I totally 100% agree with you and totally 100% disagree with Cowherd or whoever said it, because
was it Colin Cowherd?
Ding, ding, ding.
Was it Colin Cowherd?
It was brutal. It was brutal.
I think,
it was brutal.
and I just don't think it's fair. I don't think it's
right.
fair. I mean, what is, you were not at the press conference. You were not in the room. You watched the press conference on TV.
Yep.
I mean, first of all, anything that he said, like literally what are the things that he said? Some of the best quotes that I remember. This could be the best thing that has ever happened to me in my life. I just can't believe it's real. We spoke this into existence. We're thinking about gold jackets and Super Bowls. I mean,
he created a hashtag like that,
right?
Like dog check.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, where is the evidence of any of this? And okay, fine. I'm sure behind the scenes at first he was a little like, man, this team really traded me. Like, I gave them everything I had and they treated me like this, and they're just going to trade me away. But then of course, then you just think like, okay, I'm going to a place, I get to be with my brother, my literal brother, like a guy who I love is like my brother. I get to play with a quarterback who I have deep respect for in Baker Mayfield. I get to play in front of passionate fans that, will embrace a superstar like a LeBron or like like anybody, really, like a Baker. I mean, so no, there's absolutely zero evidence of Odell Beckham Jr. being upset. And as for the thoughts that, this thing could be a train wreck, I don't think, of course, any situation can become a train wreck, right? Like, it's funny to me, like the Packers, right? The Packers were never a train wreck until they were. Like,
I was saying the Packers are a train wreck now.
Oh, absolutely. With the article that came out from Bleacher Report,
But that's the thing. That's what I'm telling you guys, though, is that they were never a train wreck. Everyone's always like, the Packers, what a great organization. What a well-run organization. Right. They won a Super Bowl. They're great. Aaron Rodgers.
Well, the same with the Steelers, Hayden. Same with the Steelers, right?
Steelers, too.
Exactly. Right. The Steelers. Oh, what a great organization. Big Ben. And so, guess what? You have good players on the football field that get it and know how to play the game. I don't GAF about the other stuff. I don't.
Yeah.
Because again,
by the way, I love that. I'm going to steal that from Hayden Grove.
It's been proven time and time again that off the field stuff, if you can just put it aside when you're on the field, it doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't. It does not matter. Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, Ben Roethlisberger, those guys, they're great football players. And that's the bottom line. I don't care if they hate each other. I don't care that Aaron Rodgers hated Mike McCarthy. They won a Super Bowl. I mean, my goodness. It's like, even if OBJ ends up hating Baker, or if OBJ ends up hating Freddie Kitchens, if they play football the way that they know how to play football, and that's their number one priority, they're going to win a Super Bowl. They're going to.
Yeah.
If Kareem Hunt plays it, if Kareem Hunt can make himself the best person he can be, and he can find his way to the field, and they can add some more defensive talent, and those guys can play at the top of their game, they're going to win a Super Bowl. There's no doubt in my mind. So
I'm glad you're as fired up about it as I am.
I was going to say,
it is ridiculous.
No, it is. And I'll tell you, I know Collins. I used to work with him. I doubt he listens to this podcast, but I'm going to reach out to him like, hey, you got to chill out. You sound like a guy who's freaking out that your predictions are going to be wrong about Baker Mayfield. I agree. We echo it all the time. I mean, it's get on the bandwagon. And I'll tell you the other thing, too, about we've all watched press conferences and stuff. They are usually stiff. They are boring. It's robotic. It's cookie cutter, whatever the term is. Hey, I liked it. I'm excited. Can't wait to be in Cleveland. Yeah, I know. But pierogies, something else. And then, you kind of you get off, dog pound, woof, woof, we're out. This one was one of the more powerful, gripping press conferences. And I thought it changed the tone of the Browns again, which I didn't think was possible, because I loved how they led off. It was like the four horsemen walking out there. Those are the people like you're alluding to, Hayden. I agree with you. And this is my other point. I think actually the Browns now, after one press conference, even after all the things, got more exciting again. And I didn't think that was possible. I was really prepared for this is going to be a boring press conference, some things back and forth. Odell's excited to be here. He gets out of town. And it was nothing like that. So for Cowherd to say that, I mean, I don't know how you could read that in that press conference.
Just don't.
Again, I'm sure Colin got a story. I'm sure Colin got a story from someone saying, "Hey, Odell wasn't very happy about the trade. He would have loved to have been in LA." Yeah, of course. Duh. Right? Like, of course he would. I mean, LeBron,
yeah, we don't exactly think Cleveland's at the top of everyone's list, but I do know this, Hayden. I live by this. I've been saying it for the past 15 years. The only people that talk trash about Cleveland are people that haven't been there. Period.
1 million,
exactly.
Jillion %. That is my entire point in all this. I did not grow up in Cleveland, but I grew up coming to Cleveland twice a year, every year, a couple of weeks here, a couple of weeks there, because my family's from here, and we were very close, and that's why I came back here. I love it here. And every single time I meet somebody from out of town that either lives in Cleveland or is visiting, for instance, one of my best friends lives in San Francisco. She's lived out there for a while. She used to live in Florida with me, but she came to visit Cleveland and she didn't know what to expect. I said, listen, don't expect anything. Just let the city speak for itself. And she left saying, it was so much cleaner than I thought it was going to be. There was so much, nice scenery and stuff to do downtown, and great restaurants and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, it's not going to be the most picturesque place in the world, but you have a lake to look out at. You have some great places downtown. If your expectations are New York, then it's going to fill your expectations. But I guess my whole point again is that guys looking from the outside in on Cleveland, of course. I'm sure OBJ was like, man, Cleveland, like, of course. But once you can't judge a place till you get there. And
I agree.
I think that's exactly what's going to happen with Odell. I think once they start winning football games and once this town this town is going to be on fire.
Yep.
And they're going to love every second of it.
No more loyal fans, man. No more loyalty than fans in that city. Bottom line.
No.
I mean, it's going to explode. I think Freddie Kitchens and really want to caught my ear.
I want to say this. I want to say this before we talk about Freddie Kitchens, because Freddie was my guy from the beginning. I will say that because I just think, from the people I talked to, from the Browns organization, they loved, and they as they should have, they loved him. And so what I want to say is that I don't want to come off as a homer, because that's not my intention here. Like, when the Browns were awful, I hammered them. I hammered Hugh Jackson. I hammered Jimmy Haslam. I am hammering Paul Dolan right now for saying the things that he said. The Cavaliers situation is the Cavaliers situation. I don't know if we can hammer them, but believe me, there was
just be glad they haven't completely collapsed.
Right, exactly. There was no bigger critic of the Cleveland Browns than Hayden Grove, because it was a joke the way that organization was run. Sashi Brown was a joke at evaluating talent. Hugh Jackson was a joke of a coach. And now the thing is, I think the thing that's hard to grasp is just how real it is. Like, I made this analogy the other day, like 2007, 2008, Browns, they won 10 games, but it didn't seem real, right? Derek Anderson was your quarterback. Braylon Edwards kind of had a fluky year. Kellen Winslow. Yeah. Jamal. I mean, they were good, but again, and the coach Romeo Crennel didn't seem like he was all that good. But all these guys are real. Baker Mayfield is a real franchise quarterback.
I agree.
Kareem Hunt is a real. Yeah. Kareem Hunt could be a real potential Pro Bowl player. Nick Chubb is a real running back. You have a very solid offensive line, and then you have two of the best receivers in the league in Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry. You have one of the best defensive rushers in the league in Myles Garrett. Now you got to bolster up that defense a little bit, and then let's go.
Well, and let's not forget Denzel Ward either. If he can stay healthy and keep his head straight, then you've got somebody else there too.
Yeah, if Denzel Ward the first 8 games was the best rookie on the field. He won the Ravens game. Literally won the Ravens game. He was unbelievable. And to your point too, Hayden, and we're all right here. That is why I think it's so unbelievable. Even go shorter term, Greg Little, Muhammad Massaquoi. And we've gone from all that to this, and then the Cody Kessler. And look, let's not relive 1-31. It was awful. We are here, and we're finally landing it. I wanted to ask you something though that you kind of tipped on that we've been holding in, because I think I'm going to change it over to the Indians. Because I really think the Athletic article, combined with a couple other articles written about Dolan, has carried a very weird vibe that I've never seen from an owner. Usually an owner doesn't say, we're kind of cheap. And that's kind of how he came off in both articles, if I'm being honest. He didn't come off well.
There were 3 articles. There were 3. You can find them. Anthony Castrovince of MajorLeagueBaseball.com, Terry Pluto of the Plain Dealer, and then Zach Meisel of The Athletic. 3 separate articles in which Paul Dolan said, "Hey, we don't expect to have the money to, we had to cut costs. We had to do this. We had to do that." I mean, and to say it one time, I think is honest.
Well,
right?
you're forgetting you went on STO before the home opener too. I mean, that's
right.
Yeah.
Right. But to say it one time is honest. To say it one time is being transparent with your fans, being honest. To say it twice is kind of weird. And it's like, okay, maybe you're just reiterating. To say it 3 times seems like a cry for help. It seems like,
I'm with you.
Anymore.
Calling it a cry for help, Hayden, let me ask you this, though. Calling it a cry for help, let me ask you, do you think Paul might be trying to nudge Major League Baseball into trying to figure out some better way of sharing money and revenue?
Well, either that or like trying to find a suitable owner. I mean, somebody who can pay the money.
Yeah.
Because I don't think the Dolans are bad. The Dolans are not bad people.
Right.
I think they're very good people who, really love the city of Cleveland and its teams and, want the best for the fans. Yeah. But they also are very, realistic about their situation. And maybe they are at the point where they're like, okay, we tried, we spent with Edwin, we spent with all these guys. We thought we had something brewing here and it's just not going to work. This isn't going to be, we're not going to be able to give our fans, the opportunities that we think that they deserve. Maybe it's time for us to kind of look elsewhere. And if that's the case, then kudos to them. But again, I think they're just being kind of, it does seem like the desperation to me.
It does. Well, I've never seen an owner brag about, hey, we're kind of like, we can't afford this. Like I've never seen that in ownership. I've seen ownership say, hey, we have to make some budget things. We have to make sure our costs are balancing out. But I've never heard an owner basically say, hey, I don't know if we can handle this. It just seems like Dolan was overwhelmed.
Right. It totally does. I think that's the case.
Well,
I mean, I will see what happens with the All-Star game. We'll see what happens with this team this year. If the Indians have a bad year this year, I don't anticipate that they will. I think the players on the field are good enough. I think their pitching staff is good enough. I think Chris Antonetti. Let me tell you this, and I will
see. And this is exactly where I was going to go into, Hayden. I know where you're going with this, but go ahead.
Chris Antonetti and Mike Chernoff and that front office are 100 million % the reason the Indians are anything.
Yep.
A-class.
Hands down.
A-class.
Yep.
A-class.
You cannot find a better front office than what the Indians have.
Could you imagine them with money?
Oh, I know. Well, I'll tell you the truth. We have a wonderful manager in Francona. I mean, but that's also Chris Antonetti. That relationship came before. Right. So you're right.
I mean, I can never say enough good things about Chris Antonetti and Mike Chernoff and the way they make this work. And like I said, if you just gave them a little bit of money, I mean, the Edwin thing was good for the time. It worked kind of in a way. And but if you just gave them if you put them in like Philly situation or something like that, I mean, I just think that they would tear the roof off some team.
Hayden, even looking at the situation right now, that front office isn't panicking, right? That front office is not panicking. They're not trying to. I know we're looking. This lineup is not going to hit 120 to 150 throughout the season. Right? I mean that's just not something that numerically ever will happen. The team offensively is going to get better. Players are going to get healthy and come back. There are guys in AAA Columbus right now who are going to come up possibly. This team will get progressively better, and we're not talking about a team that hasn't won a game this season. They're 500 right now, which, if you ask any Indians fan, that's all they wanted in this month of April, right?
Yeah, right. You can take 500 in the May. You can't. You could take 500 in the May and not have an issue. So, yeah, no, definitely agree with you there. I just want to quote Colin Cowherd because I'm looking at it on.
You see it now?
Right here we go. So, because Colin Cowherd, you're on the radio. You said this. I'll quote you right now. Nobody will be honest about this Cleveland thing. It's a chance to be a complete and utter dumpster fire. Odell didn't want to go there. The owner is a control freak. John Dorsey is a control freak. Freddie Kitchens could be in over his head. Well, okay. Let me dispute two things. One, I think that Jimmy Haslam finally is not a control freak. I think he gets that he sucks at doing the football stuff and just should leave it alone, which is why he hired John Dorsey. I do agree that John Dorsey is a control freak, which I think is a great thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a fantastic thing for an owner or for a GM as good as he is to be a control freak. And Freddie Kitchens, I think, is the least in over his head coach of all time. I don't think his expectations for himself, I think he knows how good I think he knows the league well enough. I think he's been in enough situations. I think he's willing to collaborate. He's not a guy that's going to be in over his head like, oh, I got to take control of everything. I think he's just going to delegate and let his guys do their job. So I disagree with the three things. And then if, I don't think anybody's being dishonest. Of course, it could be a dumpster fire. Of course, if Baker struggles and Odell wants the ball and all this, but I think the chances of that are far less.
Hayden Grove, Cleveland.com, at @H_Grove. Hayden, thanks for coming on again, man. Appreciate it. Talk to you again soon, brother.
Anytime, guys. Thank you for the time. I'm sorry if I was rambling a little bit. I just get fired up about some of these topics.
Listen, if you're going to ramble, this is the place.
The Cowherd thing is kind of just.
I know. I've been fired up all afternoon.
I don't want you guys to think that I'm not listening to you, because I am. But I just saw another tweet from Skip Bayless saying why the Browns are potentially far more dysfunctional than the Steelers. And with that, I think I need to.
Skip just pulled a hold my beer.
Oh my gosh!
Enjoy it, Cleveland. Enjoy it.
Hayden, go do some yoga. Go for it. I was gonna tell you, go do some yoga.
Enjoy it.
Exactly. Oh my God. Seriously. Yeah, no more articles. Thank you, Hayden. Have a good day, brother.
Take care, man.
You too. That's a mic drop.
Thanks to Hayden Grove. We really appreciate that. That was a cool little insight into that. We should now wrap up with the Cavs here, Jared, before we get to the wrap up and send off.
Cleveland Cavaliers.
The Cavs season's finally over. They ended on a large losing streak. Channing Frye, the send off was very cool. I definitely think he's got a Clevelander touch in him now forever. It's weird. He's definitely an Arizona guy. Went to Arizona, played a lot of years for the Suns as well, but he definitely feels like a Clevelander now at heart. Really, really cool send-off. Sexton into the year, he kind of tapered off a little bit. I think that West Coast swing at the end of the year was rough on the Cavs.
But you knew it, Andy. You called it from early on that portion of the season is basically where everything just is thrown away.
Yeah,
they're done.
Yeah, I don't mean to call my own shot, but that was so obvious when you looked at the schedule. Yep. Get as many wins as you can, because once you played that Clippers game, and by the way, they didn't win since that game. Once they played the Clippers at home, it was downhill. I mean, there was no chance the Cavs were going to get on a multiple game winning streak, let alone win a game. They didn't win a game. So the Cavs really had a rough season out. Look, there's nothing to break down this season. This is year one after LeBron James leaving, which we'll get to him and the Lakers in a second. But I think the bigger thing here with the Cavs is how do they land with the lottery, who their head coach is going to be, and then one more roster turnover here in the offseason. I think Tristan Thompson's going to go.
Yep.
J.R. Smith's definitely going to go. Yep. You're going to see some more roster spots opening up here, Jared. And again, it's not going to be a totally new team, but I think you're going to see a new Cavs again, even as a feel for 19 and 20.
Well, Kobe Altman has talked about it and said, no matter where we end up in the lottery, we're going to be able to get a quality player out of this draft, period. And so he's confident in that. He's not, obviously, all of us, many of us, most of us, if not all of us, are hoping for that number one slot and snagging Zion. But if that doesn't happen, they're going to be able to build around this. What I think is, and I think that, I think there was something mentioned about this in regard to when they're looking for this new head coach. When there's people, let's talk about this real quick, Andy. In regard to the head coach position for this Cleveland Cavaliers team, there are folks out there that are complaining and saying, well, who's going to want to come here? Even though there's only 2 or 3 jobs open this season, who's really going to want to come here and take the risk of playing of coaching, because a lot of these coaches have been let go after a year or two. Mike Brown was here twice. Blatt was hired before they knew that LeBron was coming back. But a lot of these issues that I think people have in regard to how these coaches are hired and fired in Cleveland aren't taking into consideration how much LeBron has affected that situation. and that with LeBron not here, there may be more stability for a coach here. The argument is, though, that Dan Gilbert doesn't ever offer the second, contract to the GMs. He doesn't have a problem with letting them walk. So he's not glued to having anyone around, whether it be a head coach, GM, or anything, and that this is going to continue to be an issue with turnover at the head coach position with the Cavs. I personally think that from Dan Gilbert's words, I believe yesterday in regard to this, which are, we're looking for somebody to help foster this culture of the future, no matter what it is, no matter where we land in the lottery and who we're going to draft. We're not thinking about pairing that together, basically.
Here's what I would say about, and a few quick thoughts. The NBA jobs are very valuable and they're well paid, so they're coveted jobs. Yeah. I don't believe that. You can make that argument in college basketball. Mm-hmm. You cannot in the NBA. There's only so many jobs, and if you want one, they're well paid and whatever else, and it gets your name out there. 2, the big thing that I learned this year that I'm interested to see if it carries is I didn't really feel Dan Gilbert's presence around this team this year. I didn't really feel Dan. I didn't really see Dan. I didn't really see it. Honestly, Jared, it's one of the few years I don't remember him tweeting a lot.
No, it's like we're in the twilight zone right now, where you've got the Browns owner and the Cavs owner in the back seat, and we don't see him. And then we've got Paul Dolan out in front of the camera. When did we go to opposite world? It's like Freaky Friday with Cleveland sports team owners. What is this? What is this?
It really is. You put in those words, it is unbelievable. Friday, brother. And by the way, Dolan didn't do 1, not 2, but 3 different articles on the same storyline. I'm telling you, I think Dolan's a good guy. That was one of the worst.
About it, though.
It is one of the worst PR mistakes he's ever made. Period. And I would tell that to the person who signed off on this. Like, you wanted to do 3 different stories, talk about how you're hemorrhaging money and how you're not making money in the club, how you don't want to put it back into the city, into the team.
Well, and that's the other thing about Dan Gilbert. We know he's going to spend money. That's right. He'll spend money.
And Haslam will too. And I mean, both those guys will. So, all right, going back to the Cavs.
Yep.
I think the third thing here is, okay, with those 2 caveats, if you look at the negatives, you got to deal with Dan Gilbert, you got to deal with a transitioning team. You are looking at a younger coach probably, or a coach who has had some experience, but who isn't a top cut name. Mm. This is the first Cavs search I've seen, even in the years when the Cavs were bad. I'm not seeing any big dog names. I'm seeing names in there that kind of come and go. Monte Williams seems to be a name that's getting brought up a lot. I'm even hearing the weird whispers of Luke Walton, which I don't know if I would do that. He's been through a lot. And I'd even do that for Luke's sake. I think Luke needs a year or 2 to get his feet underneath him. Yeah. That was a wild scene in LA, which we'll touch on the end. I think the bigger thing for the Cavs, though, is they need someone, to what Jared's saying. Do you see the vision of, hey, yes, next year might be similar win total, whatever else, but hey, we're expecting to start building wins and start building a team. And look, this year was a teardown. Next year should not feel like a teardown. And that's going to be a tricky thing we'll get into with the Cavs. I think this year is a write-off. No one's upset. If you do this next year, you're going to start feeling tension. You're going to start feeling some angst and anxiety.
Yeah, because even this year, Andy, if the team was healthy, we were hoping for a bottom playoff spot.
Yes, that's right.
So when we talk about a teardown, it wasn't a teardown to the studs. It was let's
pretty close,
kind of feel this out. Teardown. Let's
agreed.
See what happens here.
Agreed,
but the injuries just ruined it.
Injuries really. I would say this too. Had some players that just it didn't quite fit. George Hill and so many others who were not bad players, just didn't have a fit, didn't have a role in this team, and so. Jared's right. They didn't strip it down to the studs, but they will after this offseason. And what I mean by that is if they don't trade Love or they don't trade Tom, which I think they'll trade Thompson, you're not going to see them getting traded after 2020. So, like, this is it. If you're going to get rid of these guys, you got to get rid of them now because you really don't – there's really not a good – I would even argue, Jared, keeping Kevin Love and then trading him at the trade deadline to me doesn't make as much sense. You should start this team by saying, here's our core moving forward.
Yeah.
Here's our group moving forward. So, hey, if you don't think Tristan should belong and he needs a fresh start, hey, then trade him. Make a move. Do these things in the offseason so when we go into the summer league, and maybe not summer league, but when we go into early in, God, it's so amazing how quick the NBA season comes along. September, we know who this crew is of people that are going to be playing. I think that is important. I think that's important. And obviously, too, we're not alluding to the pink elephant in the room, the lottery, which you kind of teed up. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see whether it's 1, 2, or 3. Hopefully, they don't drop past that. The chances of that are very low. But I think the lowest they can go is 5. But still, like, they're going to be in that top. We know they're going to be in that top 5 or 6 range, right? So it's going to be interesting to see who they bring in, how he's going to fit. The only thing I will get to with the lottery, let's say they don't get, if it's number 1, I think it's Zion Williams. I think we can all give that. Let's say it's not. I don't care what position he plays, Jared. I want that player to be very good. If it's a guard, it's a guard. If it's a forward, it's a forward.
Yeah.
This team, it's not about like, I'm already starting to hear like, but they already have Colin Sexton. Hey, we need good players.
Yeah, and we've talked about that. They can find a way to have Colin Sexton on the same team with John Morant.
My God, they'll figure it out.
John and him would be fine. They'll figure it out. They don't have a choice but to, Andy. They don't have an option.
No, they do not. We will do more of the look back with Hayden Grove, either, I don't know about next week, but maybe after the draft. Maybe around the lottery, actually. That actually might be a good time to do around the lottery once we see the lottery pick and we get a feel for that. And we'll take a look back at the year and kind of see where the Cavs go forward.
Hey, so let's switch this a little bit, staying on the Cavs, but to the exterior of the Cavs, the building they play in, switching from Quicken Loans Arena, the Q, changing the name to Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. Some are suggesting the nickname The Rock. I personally think that doesn't really make sense. I get it. You're trying to tie in the Rock and Roll of Fame. You want to call it The Rock, whatever. I don't think I'm going to do that, but there's a lot of work being done down there. They're going to try to, what exactly are they doing to that place? They're putting money into that and the area outside of it.
It's a facelift. I call it a facelift. I mean, I don't even remember what the old stadium was. It Cleveland Browns Stadium, the First Energy Stadium?
It was.
Okay, so Progressive Field's always been Progressive, right? Or was it another name before the?
Well, I know it's Jacobs Field. Jacobs Field.
No. Of course I knew that, but was there a go between Jacobs and Progressive? I don't. Well,
the go between was the Jake without being called at Gateway Park. It used to be Gateway Park, Jacobs Field at Gateway Park, and they dropped off the Gateway Park portion, and then they switched from. But it's always Jacobs Field.
So my point being here is this. I don't care. They call it the Q, Rocket Mortgage, the Rock. I don't care. I mean, I like the name the Q, but to be honest, that was the LeBron era. This is a new team. I whatever you want to call it's fine. The bigger thing, I don't care. I'm just not. I've never been into that stuff. The only time I care is when, and it still bothers me, but I know why they did it, was the Jacobs Field changing name. I love Jacobs Field. I love that name. I thought that was a weird name change.
Yeah, there are some folks in Cleveland media that are fine with it and call it Progressive, and they say it's because Progressive paid a lot of money to be able to do that, and so it's respecting them and their brand that they put out there and they pay for within Cleveland media, and they will respect that and call it Progressive. I can understand that argument. I can, but I also know that I still call it the Jake. It just is. I mean, Listen, it became such an iconic place in the city in the mid-'90s and the late 90s that you can't take that aura away. And you can say, well, calling it Progressive Field doesn't take away from the aura. But the aura is built around it being Jacobs Field.
Yeah,
the Q, I'm okay. Not that it doesn't matter. I almost feel like there's a throwback with calling it Fieldhouse. Because I'm surprised they didn't call it Rocket Mortgage Arena, because I really think that actually sounds a little bit better than Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. But I think there's a throwback with calling it Fieldhouse. Who knows? Whatever.
Who knows? All right, quickly. This is not a Laker podcast, but we got to talk about the Lakers. Because that is a fascinating meltdown that has to do with someone who's from this area. So here's the question. All that, you can read all that stuff, and I would have the same comments. Shock. That was a stunning turnaround in events. There's no way LeBron saw that coming, which he confirmed later. All that stuff was stunning and shocking. It really gives a stench to the Lakers. I think it's a hard.
You think so?
Jared, why would you go there?
Do you think that? Well, okay, I agree with that. A stench to the Lakers. But I don't think I can hate on Magic Johnson. I kind of empathized with his reasons for leaving. What I will say is crazy is that he did it without talking to.
Well, Jerry, but that's the point. You announce it to national media and you don't tell your boss first?
He said he was afraid she was going to convince him to stay and cry.
Jared.
That he was going to cry, and that she was going to cry.
Look,
and was going to make him stay.
like Magic Johnson. He's a good dude. He handled that poorly. You got to tell your boss before you go on national television that you're going to get out of the job. He handled that poorly. He peed down his leg. He really made a mistake. And in fact, he's been doing cleanup ever since. He's made comments like, the Lakers aren't in that bad a shape. Yeah, you know why he's making comments like that? Because Jeannie Buss is like, you put me in a fucking bad position, dude. Yeah. And you need to get me out of this now. Magic handled that poorly. And by the way, it didn't come off as a situation of, hey, the Lakers are fun. He's like, I've been stressed out. I don't have as much fun anymore. Oh, Jared, with all the opportunities in the NBA, why would Kevin Durant, and by the way, I'm now hearing this. We don't have time to do this today because I got to run here in a minute. I am now hearing more and more momentum about Durant coming to New York, and I think that's crazy. We'll have to do another podcast. Is
that going to be him and Kyrie?
I don't. We'll get to it.
Two of the softest dudes in the NBA teaming up in New York City. Have fun with that. Have fun with that, Knicks. It's not going to work out.
I'm hearing more and more and more about not Kyrie, but about Durant.
I just heard that it was going to happen because Kyrie. I heard that's how they were looking to make that go down. Him and Kyrie in New York.
Well,
we'll
again,
see.
that's for another podcast. Well, that's
but what I think, I really think LeBron's on an island at this point.
That's my point. Okay, so let's get this quickly. I can actually make an argument with a 3-year gap that I actually think the Cavs are a better destination than the Lakers. It's razor thin, but to people out there who told Jared Watson, why would you take the Cavs job? Well, why would you take the Lakers job? and by the way, you know who's going to be coaching and you can see it. It's already happening. You know who's going to coach Lakers next year? Ty Lue.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's going to be an average basketball team.
Fascinating watch. Fascinating watch.
Not going to be.
And I tell you, I love LeBron. I really hope for his sake he is ready for next year, because similar to the Cavs, the Lakers fans will write off this year, in my opinion. That will not happen next year.
I think that I hope that LeBron was prepared prior to going to the Lakers for this to not work out.
Again, I think he's in for a lot. I would just buyer beware. That is going to, I think year 2 for the Lakers is going to be hard.
Hey, did you take Kobe when Kobe congratulated Dwayne Wade on Twitter and said, that it takes a special person to play for a team for, what was it, 11 years, however many years.
Sure.
And stay with the same team. He congratulated him in that form. Do you think that's a shot at LeBron?
No.
Not at all, huh?
Nope.
I don't know. When I read it, I felt like, that feels like it might be a little bit of a dig. I can understand why it was said, but yeah, I don't know.
No, I don't think so. I think Kobe's a very strange individual. I am not a fan.
I haven't been, and I can tell you stories about the prosecuting attorney in Denver or in Colorado.
Well, I did a lot of research on that project as a young PA in ESPN, and I'm sure we both could commiserate about that. Anyways, that's for another podcast. I'm still not The only series I'm going to watch a little bit, Sixers Nets. I have no interest in the other series. I don't care. I don't care about any of these other series. Jared, do you have any interest in these NBA series? The only one I will watch. Now, in the second round, Warriors, Rockets, you'll see me there. Sixers, who is it going to be? Sixers, because it's going to go, let's see, Bucks, Celtics, I will be there for every game. Raptors, Sixers, I will be there for every game. Rockets, Warriors, I'll be there for every game. The second round's good. First round,
I don't know, Andy. I think a lot of NBA folks, or the fair weather fans, you say all that, and all they hear is Charlie Brown teacher want. I think the NBA. I think we're gonna get a good feel of whether the NBA is still on that climb.
We'll see.
And doing well or not throughout these playoffs.
We'll see. I'm interested to see. The ratings will tell everything. I will watch the ratings.
Exactly.
I will watch the ratings and talk about it. I'm going to keep my eye on that. So I think it's a good topic of story. All right, quickly, the Masters. Tiger Woods in contention here on Saturday. I really like the guy Molinari, the Italian. He won the British Open last year. I think he's going to be dangerous. Koepka's great. He's won
Not to be confused with Lou Malnati's in Chicago.
Correct. Anyways, it's a stacked leaderboard. You could choose your player who you want. A lot of people obviously want to see Tiger do well and win. Koepka and Molinari, to me, are the two best players playing right now. I know a lot of people like this Rahm guy, and I've heard of him and seen him play. I'm much more of a U.S. and British Open guy, but the Masters is on. I'll definitely be watching it. I'll give some. I just think the big thing is here, Jared, and as I see Tiger hitting a great shot here and putting it beside the pin, because Tiger's his aura is going to be in that front leaderboard. I think you're going to see a lot of attention on the Masters Saturday and Sunday. A lot. Not that you normally wouldn't, but a lot more this year. Oh, and by the way, for people who love videos, Phil Mickelson put out a great. I retweeted it today. He put out a great video.
Analytics, brother. Analytics.
Yeah.
He was driving up Magnolia Lane and basically giving a breakdown of the most important stat at the Masters and playing Augusta is that you've got to hit the hell out of the ball off the tee to set yourself up for success because there's so little room for error after that.
Yeah,
it's basically what he broke it down to.
Yeah, and he gave a big dig to Kuchar for not tipping his caddy properly earlier in the year. And for golf fans out there, you have to read that story. I don't know how
I missed that. I think I barely was. I must not have paid close enough attention to that.
Well, he made a line, and towards the middle he goes, I'd make side bets at Kuchar, but I know it'd only pay me 0.06% of the bet back.
That's what it was. That's what it was, and it kind of went over my head when I heard that. Yes.
That was a dig. That was certain. I don't know if Kuchar and Mickelson are friends, but that was certainly a dig. All right, real fast. Congrats UVA, but that was one of the most self-destructive tournaments as a Purdue and Auburn fan, I can tell you. Texas Tech, I'll just leave it at this, Jared. I didn't think Texas Tech could do any more. UVA was just a better team that night. I thought Auburn, Purdue left plays on the floor that will drive them crazy forever. Texas Tech, I thought they played the best game they could, and UVA just happened to win.
I think I was with a majority of Fairweather fans, and I chose not to watch that game.
Yep.
I checked in after the first half, and I let it go.
I watched the whole game. It was a very good game, but I will not say the heightened fact. It was actually a really well played game. I shouldn't say it. It was a great Final Four, great Elite Eight, and great championship game, but it is hard to cheer for Virginia unless you went to UVA. And that's how I'll leave it. It is a hard school to cheer for because they feel elite. They have a lot of guys and girls out there who have very high educations, and they sometimes come off as prim and proper. That's not fair, but I'm just being honest.
Thanks again to Hayden Grove of Cleveland.com for always making time to come on the show. We really appreciate that. Find him and follow him on Twitter at @H_Grove, @H_Grove. Follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Cleveland and Beyond, or on Twitter as well, @CLE and Beyond. That's @CLE and Beyond for Twitter. You can find our webpage at andyandjared.com or clevelandandbeyond.net. There you'll be able to link up with our blog or check out the podcast. Also, love for you to subscribe on iTunes, Andy and Jared, Cleveland and Beyond. Find that on iTunes, and do us a favor, leave a message, leave a comment, and give us a rating, because that stuff always helps out especially for others who are looking for Cleveland sports podcasts. The more that you rate this show, the easier it'll show up for them when they're looking for Cleveland sports via iTunes.
Real quickly, Cody Anderson and Rodriguez both brought up today. Rodriguez was known as he's pitching, but Cody Anderson looks like he's healed from his Tommy John, so he's up today. Luplo and John Edwards going down AAA. That makes a lot of sense. Both players really weren't playing that well. Real quickly, too, and by the way, I have a lot of UVA fans out there. I love UVA, but I just had to state that lead us some comments. It is sad. I think it has that school a little bit at times. Our next podcast will be after the schedule's released, 48 hours afterwards. We'll dive into that.
Sounds good. That's the plan. He's Andy Billman. I'm Jared Watson. Andy and Jared, Cleveland and beyond. Take care, everybody.